Good evening, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to another night of the Fabul Gauntlet. We are in week 4, which means we've got some 1 and 2 matches coming up for you. People fighting for their lives to hang on in this tournament. My name is Smapey, and with me in the commentary booth tonight is Rex Raul. Rex, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, it's always good when we've got a free enterprise race to watch tonight. So I'm looking forward to this. These are people who are need to win in order to keep going. So this is a very important race for both DemonRHK and keddril here.
Yeah, absolutely. Look for all of the stops being pulled out here. Both of these runners know that they're on the brink. Their tournament lives are at stake. And so you wouldn't be surprised to see just all of the stops pulled out here. We've got ourselves a Kane start, which is not a terrible start, especially if you can find some solid gear really early.
Yeah, he starts off with a little low in the HP department, and his opening spear doesn't do a lot, but he can equip a lot of weapons. And if we find one through looting or shopping earlier, he can be a force very quickly.
Yeah, right you are. One of the harder characters to get back rogue glitched, of course, so he's hard to get completely optimal. The only weapon in the game that'll give him that back rogue glitch is the Dwarf Axe. But he can compensate with that somewhat with his jump command, which also gives him some utility as far as certain boss mechanics being able to ignore them or otherwise avoid them. So really solid starter. Depending on what complementary character our runners get here, this could be a very quick overworld phase.
It's also Kane is also another character. It's just kind of, even though it's not always, oftentimes not necessary, it's still just nice to have that in case we see Valvolus in a rough spot. He's the only one who can take her out of the tornado form, so having him just can sometimes be a nice utility um, should that need come up. So that's just another thing that's really nice to see about getting Kane early.
Yeah, absolutely. Valvolus, one of those bosses, alongside a few choice others such as Ogopogo, Cagnazo, that if it shows up in a particularly nasty spot, can really be a wall for a lot of runners. I know last night we had a seed in which case we had Cagnazo blocking the hook path. Excuse me, it wasn't Cagnazo, it was Ogopogo blocking the hook path. And situations like that really call for some very specialized strategies, very specialized team compositions, a deep knowledge of the game in order to go through, and that can trip a lot of people up.
Yeah, that Cagnazo at the hook route was a couple nights earlier. That was my race.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I mean that just goes to show there's so many things that you can see within this randomizer, and the fact that we've got this kind of Swiss sort of tournament style that we're going. We get to see a lot of different runners and a lot of different seeds, so you get to see a whole lot of different challenges being presented to the runners, and that just makes for interesting races and interesting strategies that we see throughout this event.
Yeah, this is the first time we've done a 1v1 event in Free Enterprise, and it's really proven to be incredibly interesting. Most of the time, we've got our event squared off in 4 people, so you're not necessarily gunning for first place. You're gunning for a good time. As long as you get that first second, you're usually good. This, it's do or die. You have to beat your opponent. You have to beat your opponent specifically. So a lot of times it's not just good enough to play your best race. You have to play your best race and make sure you're making decisions you know your opponent's not going to if you don't feel like you can keep up to them execution wise.
Right, and that's the sort of gamble that people have to make in this. Do you make the riskier route if you think you might not be as good at kind of with the execution? But we're off here. And it looks like we've got a Porum, or excuse me, Palum. That's Palum, along with a Magma Key start.
That is very interesting. That opens up a lot right from the get-go. It'll be interesting to see if our runners decide to, play that magma key early and maybe try to poke around a little earlier than they would. We don't have those pro flags on, so they don't get a lot of benefit from going to the underground treasures early. But that does put some things on the table that wouldn't necessarily be there before. Maybe going down to go say hi to Young real quick before heading to Fabul.
Yeah, or going and checking that free key item in the Feymarch and doing your loot route in the underground instead of where there's no key items in the overworld.
We've got Zot, Dwarf Castle.
Mm,
We
that's the
have
Fabul Gauntlet.
Fabul Gauntlet. Oh, it's the name drop for the tournament. We've also got the Rat Tail and defeat the bosses of Baron Inn.
Oh, my absolute favorite of the objectives: defeat the alt gauntlet. Hopefully, it's in a really nasty spot.
Yeah, so that is going to be our only boss hunts tonight. Boss hunts tend to be some of the harder objectives to get finished because there are so many boss spots, and trying to hunt down the one boss that you need to get can take quite a while. And especially when it's a boss that, let's be honest, nobody ever wants to fight, the Fabul Gauntlet. Now it's required.
See a nice item, the Hourglass 2 found in one of the treasure chests in the Baron Inn. That's an item that in the previous version of Free Enterprise, you could always find hourglasses in shops, and now they are much more rare. And finding a few of them in shops can really be nice against certain bosses.
Yeah, definitely want to hang on to those hourglasses until the right moment. If you're not able to get them from shops, they put the stop status on all enemies, and there are certain bosses that do not have immunity stop that can be very much trivialized by that status. And there's even some encounters that stop is really useful for. Mad Ogre chest with 4 of them in it in Upper Babel comes to mind, and looks like DemonRHK is heading towards Mist for some extra looting.
You can also, yeah, DemonRHK is also routing in some shopping. Another thing that this version of Free Enterprise has brought is in races is a lot more equipment checks, equipment shop checks, I should say. And we see a Blizzard Spear and a Poison Axe, a couple nice options for Kane.
Yeah, looks like gonna sell some things off here and try to rustle up the gill for that Blizzard Lance. Like we were talking about earlier, getting a really good piece of gear early for Kane can really speed up the early game here. So probably going to keep an eye. Can't afford the Lance just yet. Probably going to keep an eye on that and come back when the funds are looking a little better.
And we see keddril going into the mini treasury in Troya. Not quite as big as once we get that Earth Crystal, we get the bigger treasure trove open to us. But this still is 9 treasure chests that are available to you right at the bat in Troya Castle. And so that's a nice little bit of looting that you can do right away, and then check a bunch of shops in Troya town.
Yeah, and I really like that samurai armor that was found in there. Very high level armor, offers a lot of protection. It's going to make Kane essentially physically immune to a lot of these early boss checks. And then once it's no longer needed, it can be sold for a very good amount of money, and can use that towards something like that Blizzard Spear or something.
And trying to see if he could get lucky and find that Fabul Gauntlet in the Mist Cave, and no, it's just an evil wall. Get a reset out from DemonRHK, who's now flying over to Damsian Castle for some more loot.
Wow, that is a great shop there in Troya. That was life potions, illusions, and star veils. That Troya is going to be your one-stop shopping for a lot of your utility items here, it seems.
Yeah, and Cure, I think that was Cure 3's in the other shop too. So lots of value in the item shops in Troya.
Yeah, someone who hates traveling around the world shopping, that's something I like to see in a seed.
Yeah, get that all concentrated into one place, yeah.
And I think we did see a fire sword as well, which will be very serviceable for Kane until something a little higher level comes around. Even though Kane is known for using lances, generally speaking, swords are a little bit more effective on him just because they tend to have that higher accuracy rating, which ends up doing a good bit more damage than sometimes his spears can do of equivalent level.
And it's just like the really high level swords that Kane is unable to equip, like the lightsaber, the Excalibur, and the crystal sword. But other than that, he's as adept with a sword as he is with a lance.
Yeah, most people would say that his ultimate weapon is either the Avenger or the Defense Sword. Cal Cabranazal is at the Waterfall. That's going to be a reset for DemonRHK.
Yeah, getting that knowledge there can be useful. With no demist and no alt gauntlet found there, no need to fight them at this point.
And just to answer a question in chat, lances don't have a jump bonus in this game, right? That is correct. Final Fantasy V, you do get a bonus to damage if you use the jump command with the lance. But in this game, Kane does just as much damage with the lance as he does without it when he uses jump.
And both of the characters or runners are equipping up their characters before making the journey up Mount Hobbs to get another character check here.
Yeah, some strong characters they have starting out. Always good to add more to the roster. Well, unless it's Edward. Well, keddril's going for it.
I think the other thing is you want to get a little bit of experience on Palom so that he can learn those level 2 elemental spells. That can really help carry the first half of this overworld.
Yeah, right you are. All it takes is about one boss fight before Palom starts learning those tier 2 elemental spells, which can do a fantastic bit of damage very, very early. And it puts Palom well on the path towards getting the Quake spell, which is going to serve him very well until he nukes. So that's the general progression of spells for Palom. It's what makes him a very, very strong candidate for your team.
And both of our runners using those Star Veils to let Bahamut use his Mega Nuke, reflect it back to him for the kill. And DemonRHK not wanting that experience on Edward, it looks like.
Edward's going to take a little dirt nap before the fight is over. Yeah, one of those changes that's been made to the randomizer that we're seeing for the first time in tournament play this league is starting kits, which is a set of useful consumable items that the runners get from the get-go. Helps you really kind of jump right into the game without having to do mandatory shop checks early. Two of those items you get are a pair of Star Veils, which go to great use there against Bahamut.
And we see
another Hourglaze in the back of Hobbs.
Yeah, a little bit of divergence as DemonRHK decides to loot West Hobbs and keddril does not. That extra Hourglass is nice. That's going to be the best pickup there from the back of Hobbs there. That's something that is... some of the runners like doing that extra bit of looting there and some don't. Some like it when they've got access to exit. So that's just another choice that we're seeing a lot of divergence, a lot of different strategies among the different racers throughout this event.
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely something I'll check if I've got Tella early, because I know I can exit out of there. It's one of the reasons I really like starting to like getting Tella early in these seeds is being able to make those extra checks like there. The back of Troya is another good one that you can just kind of exit out of. Makes it way more efficient. Without Tella, yeah, it's kind of hard to justify the extra screen transitions and the extra time there. Ooh, a Gungnir Lance for Kane. That's a really nice pickup.
Also seeing a Sylph summon in the Antline Cave. So if we find an early Rydia, that's going to be a very nice summon for her to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you've been an advocate of Sylph Rydia for a while, and we've seen a lot of Sylph Rydia play so far this league. Really a fantastic way for early to mid-game Rydia to pull her weight and sort of mitigate the need for a dedicated white mage, as Rydia can do serious damage and keep the party up at the same time.
And we see keddril finally make it down to the bottom of the Antlion Cave, and we see the Dark Imps as the boss here. Probably not what the runners want to see. They'd rather see one of the more difficult bosses in this low HP, low stat spot. But this Dark Imp fight should not be too much trouble for either of our runners at this point.
Yeah, looks like Kane with that samurai armor on is taking virtually no damage. Palom will be a different story if he gets bopped, but with those spell going out, yeah, this is imps are not going to be long for this world.
Yeah, I imagine even a front row Palom here isn't going to take too much damage. This spot just has a really low physical attack. I mean, you're supposed to have just Dark Knight, Cecil, Rydia, and Edward for the boss of it.
Yeah, they can't have it hit too hard with that party.
Yeah. Ooh, we see a twin harp. Is music going to be required?
I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get to see some early music here with what we have. Well, we do have that Magna Key, so we do have access to the Underworld. So our runners might put off music for a bit, just because it is a rather long check just to make for one key item and one boss. But definitely on the table now, so get excited and chat.
Yeah, the other thing to remember about the music spot, the boss there has very high magic defense, so you're not going to be relying on Palom's magic in order to get through that one. Right now, the only really good physical attack we've got is with Kane. So as long as you can feel like Kane can get your party through that fight, it's an option. But I don't think we're going to see either of our runners make that check for a while. And was that Edge?
I believe that was Dark Knight Cecil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that'll be something our runners will want to keep an eye on. Hobbs is an increasingly likely play in the Fabul Gauntlet flag sets. Normally, in some of our more standard flag sets, people tend to avoid Hobbs because it's a lot of investment for little reward. Now that you've got so many bosses to check, and since these objectives tend to elongate the length of a seed, Hobbs becomes way more attractive. And since there's so many more chances to get your hands on something like a Holy Sword for Cecil, getting Hobbs done and getting him paladinized and ready to go is definitely something you want to keep on the table.
But you miss.
DemonRHK going to Fabul here.
I think you misspoke. It was a ordeal segment, not Hobbs.
Oh, excuse me, my mistake. I got my mountains confused. I
Yeah,
apologize.
exactly. We've all done that. Yeah, it looks like both of our runners are in Fabul now. Gonna do a little bit of shopping, it looks like, and probably going to go through at least the Fabul defense. I figure that's probably the primary reason why they're here.
Yeah, the shop checks I would get, I would think that with the magma key this early, you would want to at least go down and visit Yang before trying to do the Fabul defense, so you can at least double dip on that. But looks like our runners just want to get this over and done with right now.
Yeah, I think what you described is a strategy that I personally like, but I can also see the argument this might mean that you'd have to double dip the Sylph Cave too if you find the pan later. So either way, you're still looking at double dipping something unless you just wait to do the pan. Wait until you find the pan to do all three of those checks at once. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know getting your hands on a pan early can really just be just one of those dollar signs in your eyes moments if you're a router. But yeah, it's rarely does it go as smoothly, and sometimes you're gonna have to double dip something.
And if you want a relatively easy boss to get just a few more levels on your characters, the Fabul spot is nice. And now we've got a hook as well. So now we've got access to yet another character. We've got our path to trade away the rat tail once we find it, so we won't be caught up on that hook for that. So that's kind of a relief, I think, for the runners to get access to that item this early.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that anybody is going to be truly hurting for characters right now. Both Kane and Palin are very solid characters for a lot of these early boss checks. So I don't know that anybody's going to be rushing to get that what's the name of that cave? Evelyn Cave. That Evelyn Cave character. But it's another thing that's on the table, another thing for our runners to consider, and another possible divergence that they might make here.
And since it's a gated shop, they might route that in and might pique the character if they want to check that shop as well.
Yeah, definitely. In these particular flag sets for the Swiss bracket, the shops have even distribution, so you can kind of find anything anywhere. When we get into the bracket stages, that's going to become very important. These shops that require key items to get to have a higher tendency to have high-level items, more useful gear available. So that'll definitely be something our runners will have to consider going forward in the tournament.
So we see keddril also dealing with inventory management. Cabins and silk webs both available. I believe this is Silveria. Yeah, a couple of really nice items there. It looks like DemonRHK is going to make the jump into Evelyn because he's got the hook on that hovercraft. So it looks like we're going to see at least the shop, probably the character as well. I imagine if you're going in at this point, you're probably going to want to check that character.
Yeah, most certainly. So this is what we were talking about. One of those things where when your tournament life is on the line, you might be willing to make a gamble like this. Yeah, DemonRHK is even checking some chests, which is really risky with that Staleman encounter available. This team is definitely not ready for it. That can hurt really hard and doesn't really give a ton of XP. So you really only want to do it for the gear, or you'd want to try to avoid it and get all the chests. But you might have been hoping for an early Staleman to sort of save scum out of. Some coffins available. Those could be really useful, though.
On the other hand, if the chest is found, if you can get an hourglass, and remember, we found a few hourglasses in chests. If you can get the hourglass off before your parties fall to the Staleman, and you're able to defeat that fight, you could get a really nice prize from a trap chest.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just one of those gambles that you can make here, and that is certainly the truth. We're seeing a major divergence here. Keddril's going right to the underground.
Yeah, we're seeing some, as you say, major divergence. So we're going to see, we've got access to a lot more shops, a lot more looting. The free key item in the Fey March. We've got a couple of bosses we can take a peek at if we want. We've got, we could do the Sheila 1 route at this point. So there's a lot. I think a lot of the other, like actually trying to complete bosses in here, is going to be pretty tough at this low level, but it's still something that's available.
And speaking of stalemate, it looks like DemonRHK has found it, and unfortunately, well, actually, I take it back. If they have some attacks queued up, it might be bad.
Ooh. The last one made Kane fall asleep. That might just be it.
Yeah. Now a whole lot of nothing's gonna happen. Oh, okay, Kane is back up. All right, we're back in there. Whew.
These hourglasses don't last forever, so you've got them. If you found those coffins, yeah, there we are.
Yeah, throw those coffins at. Did it miss?
Did they not work on here? I do not know. They might be. Are they immune to death?
Possibly. I know they do have an ice weakness. But
our restreamer in the chat, Demerin, says that they are death immune. So
oh, interesting.
Can't lean on the coffins in this spot.
Yeah, learn something new about this game every day, I swear. And we're seeing the Dwarf Castle looting out, which you don't always see, but with an early Magma Key makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of chests in Dwarf Castle. It's just a long walk to get them all. They aren't all bunched together really nicely. One of the nice things about Dwarf Castle is you can use exit out of this castle. So if you find yourself at the top of one of the towers, after clearing your chest, you can use an exit to get out of there instead of having to walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And a dancing dagger in one of the pots, that is a good find. All of a sudden, Edward can contribute, and a Stardust Rod for the Quake Kid. That's big.
That is the kind of prize that you want to get out of a trap chest, especially one that was that difficult to get through. So very nice prize there. And now with that Staleman taken care of, every other chest in this Evelyn Cave is safe. So any more looting that DemonRHK wants to do, any more funds that he can get, like for selling items that he can use in shops, and any more equipment like that tiara, if he finds a female character, it's going to be really nice. A silence staff, another good pickup, another sorcerer robe, just really good mage equipment in here.
Yeah, this is some really solid loot here for DemonRHK. All of a sudden, this play is looking very, very valuable. Dragon Whip, that can be sold for some really good money too, so you can buy some of those really important consumables. So yeah, things looking really good. The cherry on top of this is if there's a really fantastic character like an Edgerafu.
Even if it's like a Rosa, because we just got a lot of great gear for Rosa. So there's a lot of different characters will be very nice to find here.
And Demarine is handling the restream, so we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Porum would be a good pickup too.
Oh, instead it's the best character in the game, and yeah.
So, you want to share your thoughts on Yang?
I think he needs a lot of work. If you've got the right setup for him, if you find the elemental claws, he's useful. Without that, you either need a lot of levels or a lot of equipment in order for him to start dealing any kind of regular damage.
Yeah, it's unlike a lot of the frontline fighters, Yang can't fall back on finding high tier equipment. There just aren't anything that he can equip on that level. So he relies almost entirely on his own base level as part of his damage formula. So he's never going to really come online damage-wise until the very, very, very late game. That being said, he does have a ton of HP, so he makes a fantastic chemist. He's one of the few characters you can rely on to take a couple hits before going down. So he does have his bright spots, though he is very much outshined by a lot of the other melee characters.
Though that also requires some work. At lower levels, his HP isn't quite as impressive, and he doesn't have access to a lot of good defensive equipment, and he can't be back row glitched. Well, not regularly.
not reasonably, let's say. Can't say never, because I did that once and got jumped on.
Uh, Also to note, Kedril did loot the trapped chest in the, or not the trap, but the key item chest in the Feymarch. Got the spoon. It is a key item. We have no spoon flag in this in for this tournament, so Edward isn't super Edward at this point. But it looks like Kedril now going to try to get Porum from the Baron Inn. And remember, Baron Inn is one of our objectives that you can see in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, Porum would be a fantastic addition to this team, especially if Keddril decides to loot out Eblan Cave and finds that great stuff like the Silent Staff. Porum gets a little bit of hate for being kind of a lesser Rosa in a lot of ways. The one big benefit to a Porum in this seed as opposed to Rosa is the earlier access to Berserk, which is really going to be a great addition to Kane's arsenal. Already, getting him up to speed and doing a lot of damage. Berserk is a fantastic way to finish that off. Porum's not going to have the late game HP that Rosa has, but will serve in a very similar role.
Yeah, Porum also gets access to exit without having to complete Tower of Zot, so that's another bonus in the Porum column. But when we get to the late game, I think our runners would prefer Rosa, but there's nothing wrong with taking Porum to Zeramis.
Oh no, not one bit. Some sync up from our runners here, both getting the same objective, running these Baron guards here. Relatively free fight, especially if you throw an Hourglass like Keddril did in his screen. They don't have the boss bit, so you can hit him with whatever statuses you want. Especially nice against them because they do have counter attacks to just about anything you do. Counter attacking both magic and physical attacks with some nasty status spells. But both our runners Hourglassing them, just a matter of taking them out from here, and they'll be on their way.
Yeah, these are bosses that are susceptible to the coffins. You could definitely use them on the guards, but you might want to save them for more dangerous fights as well.
Again, over on DemonRHK screen, showing off one of the great benefits of that Stardust Rod. In addition to it just being the best stat stick for a Black Mage in the game, using it as item gets you that Stardust spell, which is a multi-target spell, does not lose a magic power from being multi-target, and does almost 1,000 damage. So it's really, really good in the early game until Paladin comes online with that Quake spell. There's a Legend Sword. That's one half of the way to making Cecil a powerhouse.
If we find that Sand Ruby, then that could be very important indeed.
Mm-hmm. Still need the Adamant, though. But yeah, an Excalibur equipped Cecil is nothing to sneeze at.
Looks like Keddril is at least debating going to Mount Ordeals, and looks like decides against that for now. Going to head over somewhere else. Looks like it's going to be Keddril's turn to head over to Eblan Cave.
Yeah, I can understand wanting to wait on Ordeals. There's some decent early game experience to be had there with the 3 boss fights that you have to do. Well, only 2 of them grant experience, but I can understand wanting to do Ordeals, but waiting until you get another character so that they're getting the experience as well. So yeah, I think this is a pretty solid play from Keddril here.
And we already know that there's a lot of great equipment, and it does look like Keddril is doing at least some looting in here. We'll see if he decides to do the full loot that DemonRHK did, getting that Stardust Rod and that other great mage equipment.
Apologies, that was just my my beautiful dog Primrose reminding me a little downtime where the runners are retracing each other. To give a huge shout out to our restreamer here, Demarine, and Bahamut X is doing the tracking tonight. Definitely get some follows out to them. All the hard work they do, we could not have this restream without them. So thanks to both of them.
And it does look like DemonRHK does want to make that trip out up Mount Ordeals. It looks like DemonRHK wants to complete everything that he can on the overworld before diving the underground, despite that magma key start. We'll see if that pays off for him.
Yeah, I like this play a lot. When you've got these objective sets like this for seeds like this, sort of settling in for the long haul is a very good approach to them. So there's really no need to rush to the underground until you sort of exhausted everything above ground. There's a lot of potential here on Mount Ordeals. It's 3 boss checks, any one of which could be that Fabul Gauntlet that we're looking for. You get a free key item as well. We know where Cecil is, so that also is going to get him turned into a paladin. We got one half of his Excalibur. Yeah, Ordeals is just looking incredibly solid right now.
And the Lunar Sparkle in the first boss spot on Mount Ordeals is Pale Dim. Pretty easy in this spot. Not a lot of stats, and you just have to be willing to sit through all these slow animations after each fight. But other than that, shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just don't use your elemental magic on Pale Dim because Pale Dim absorbs that.
Yeah, and that's a real problem for Palom early because Palom's early game power comes from those tier 2 elemental spells. It does have that Stardust Rod, so it can do some decent damage just using it as an item. But yeah, just until he gets Quake online, he doesn't have a decent non-elemental alternative to doing damage.
Yeah, I'm not sure if DemonRHK is aware that the Pale Dim doesn't absorb the Stardust Rod because it looks like he's opting to fight with Palom. And we know that he knows to use the Stardust Rod. We saw it in previous fights. But if that's not... It's not all that common that you have that one specific piece of equipment for this one specific boss. And if you don't want to risk it, because if he does it and heals 1,000, that's just going to take longer than punching at this point. So...
Yeah, precisely. If you're, there's a lot to have to take in any given one of these seasons. So many situations you can put yourself in. If you are not sure of something, then yeah, I can definitely see not wanting to make that risk there. Keddril not checking the Job Dwarf. Wow, it really is a league.
Yeah, that's rough. I will say, really quickly, going back to the Pale Dim Stardust Rod thing, two things. First, if this wasn't a race situation, the DemonRHK may have gone ahead and done it just to see and learn from that. And then also to answer the question, Mercuric Wanderer, is he concerned about the Quake counter? He might be. He might not realize that that won't trigger the Quake, but what does trigger the Quake counter are summons. So the Stardust Rod wouldn't trigger that, but we don't know that DemonRHK knows that.
Bonus round. We've got D-Mist on Mount Ordeals. That's an extra key item check.
Yeah, now Palom free to use all the magic against D-Mist, as long as it's not in mist form. Not that it will hurt to do it in mist form, but it won't hit.
Yeah, now you've got that Palom online with Virus and a Stardust Rod. You love to see it. That is an enormous amount of damage. Something to point out here is Keddril did Evelyn Cave, but I don't believe looted any of the chests, so missed out on that Stardust Rod.
Right, looks like just did the 3 chests in the first room, which is something that I think a lot of runners do just to check to see if the Stalemen are there, and then do a reset, because Demon was taking the risk by doing the fight with that Stalemen, ended up being okay with it, but Keddril playing a little bit safer, but not getting as much reward. And also, check out that sprite on Forum. I haven't seen that before, and that's great.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the specific reference is in this one. And yes, I think Scala Kitty is restreaming a different race tonight, so won't be able to fill us in. But Scala Kitty does all of the read-on sprite palettes for the characters. They're often references to other Final Fantasies, other RPGs, video games, and they are fantastic. Oh, there she is. Can you fill us in on the Porum?
And it looks like the package is the reward up here. Oh, Isabelle from Animal Crossing is our
oh my
Forum.
Goodness, that's adorable.
The Dark Elf being the third boss. Of course, this is a very low HP boss. Pretty easy to get through this one. Get through the transition, and this virus should finish off the Dark Elf from DemonRHK.
Yep.
I would imagine at this point, probably unlikely we're going to get a package check, but who knows? Lots of unusual things, and if that alt gauntlet is hiding a package, it'll be easy to defeat, but it'll be probably a while before somebody actually goes to check there.
Yeah, package one of those cursed items that nobody really wants to check, but it's always going to be hanging in the back of your minds that, oh, well, package is an option. Yeah, a lot less value than it would be in a seed where we have a required character. Since there's just a single boss check behind there that could be holding our gauntlet. Yeah, very, very low priority for our runners, but it's always hanging there.
I think one of the next places our runners are going to want to head to is that dwarf castle. Since that's one of our objectives, you also get a key item for completing it, and another character who could be useful. I mean, Edward is nice and all, but I think most of our runners would rather him not be in the party, but we'll see.
Yeah, Dwarf Castle is a really, really nice check. It's got very decent experience for the early mid game phase. Can really sort of start to boost your team up and kind of transition you from early to mid game there. And yeah, like you said, we've got a new character joins the ranks. Since it's a character behind a key item, it can be one of those powerhouses like Edge or Fusoya. Yeah, that's just Tella behind the package, and DemonRHK is not interested.
I do like that check there. Since he's routing up to Miss to check Rydia's mom anyway, do a quick peek in the character and see if it's worth it to go through it. Because if it was Fusia or Edge, they might think like, yeah, I think it's worth it to check here. I'm going to be stronger for the rest. But instead, it's the Sand Ruby, and that's going to be a Paladin Cecil in the party.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And now you got to think: do you go recruit Cecil now and make him a part of your party, or do you wait till you get your hands on a actual high level sword for him and then slingshot him forward? Looks like DemonRHK heading to Kaipo might be picking him up now.
And Death is in the chat reminding us, if you get Tella, especially since we've just completed Mount Ordeals, that does open possible D-Machine grind once we find the Darkness Crystal. So that's another reason that you might want to get Tella at some point.
Yeah, it'd be something I'd certainly consider. If we get an early Darkness Crystal, is making one of those D-Machine grinds, especially since we have so many characters in the party right now that would get a huge benefit out of a D-Machine grind, namely the two twins, Palom and Porum. We get all of Porum's white magic spells, get that white spell for damage. Palom would be able to grind all the way up to Nuke and just be able to just blow through the seed. So yeah, if that Darkness Crystal shows up soon, I might consider picking that Tella up.
Yeah, I think it depends on how long it is before we see the Darkness Crystal. If oh, I forgot how to breathe there.
That's okay. It's very exciting.
If we have to do a lot of bosses in the underground before we see that Darkness Crystal, like the longer you get through a seed, the less good a D-Machine grind is, because you get that other experience. And if you just need to fight a few either bosses on the moon, or if we find sirens in a shop, a couple either egg grinds or gold dragon grinds, that could be faster than the D-Machine grind. So if we find the Darkness Crystal early, I think that's an option that our runners have. But I think if it goes on too long, they probably won't take that option.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And Keddril finishing up his run on Mount Ordeals, and we'll see what he decides to check next.
Another interesting thing, as we see a black belt in the shop here in Troya, a very nice piece of equipment for melee fighters. We also saw in the weapon shop in Kaipo that dwarf axe that you mentioned near the beginning of the run as the only weapon that you can use to back row glitch Kane under normal circumstances.
Yeah, that would be that would definitely be something I'd be trying to make a priority as far as purchasing goes. You can also use it to back row glitch characters like Cecil, though Cecil's way easier to back row glitch since he is willing to equip bow and arrows, where Kane is not.
Yeah, Kane's like, I don't want none of that.
No. I jump. I can't shoot bows while jumping. Keddril gonna check the package character and then reset out and maybe re-grab Mama Rydia's item here.
Yep, that's exactly what he does. It looks like he thought about Tella for a second there, and then was like, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I think both of us.
Poor Tella.
I think both the runners are like, if the All Gauntlet is at package, then I guess this is just going to be a long seed.
Yeah, I mean, there's gambles and then there's gamble.
Yeah, making that same walk over to Kaipo, just like DemonRHK did, gonna pick up that Paladin.
Yeah, wanting to get their team online sooner rather than later. Can't blame this play at all. It would have been interesting to see if maybe one of the runners wanted to wait until that Darkness Crystal became available, then level boost a level 1 Cecil. That would have been very interesting. But yeah, just getting that Cecil in there right now, getting rid of some of the dead weight in the form of Edward. Yeah, can't blame this at all.
At this point, our party composition of Cecil, Kane, Young, and the twins is an absolutely solid fight for the rest of the or party for the rest of the seed. Should our runners want to do that? I mean, there's still options like if it's not too long and you see Rosa, you might swap Porum out for Rosa. If you see Fusia, you might swap one of the twins out for Fusia.
Or
And I
even
think
Yang out for Fusei at this point.
that's a possibility too, depending on how much our runners like the reflect strategy. We see DemonRHK looting the back of Troya Town. That's not an area that you see too often, but rewarded with an Ice Claw. So getting an Elemental Claw, if DemonRHK hadn't found that one yet, that just will make a couple of fights, especially like the Rubicante fight, that much easier for his team.
Yeah, Rubicante immediately comes to mind. We haven't seen either form of him, either his regular form or elements form, both very noticeably weak to ice. Another one that actually is surprising is Caignazo. Also has a ice weakness as well. Many people think it's a thunder weakness, but actually thunder, all it does is break the wave. He's not actually elementally weak to thunder. Ice will nail his weak spot.
Yeah, depending on your strategy for how you want to handle Caignazo, he's weak to thunder when the water is up, weak to ice when the water is down.
Yes, yeah, that's the easiest way to remember it.
So if you have both of those claws, then no matter when Yang fights him, you'll get the damage.
It's one of the nice things about Yang is if you have two elements equipped, it's going to take whatever the better one is in any given situation.
Keddril, trying to redeem himself after not checking the temp drop dwarf, is heading over to Cave Magnus, and we're going to get a music check.
And there's a Thunder Claw. That's going to complete the elemental claws for Yang, so that's going to make him much more useful.
Yeah, Thunder generally considered the best of the three elemental claws for good reason. There's just a lot of fights where that elemental weakness is exploitable, but the more important thing is we're getting a music check.
Oh, absolutely. That Thunderclaw does open some interesting routing possibilities, though. One thing I would be definitely thinking about with a Thunderclaw in hand would be a keyless tower check, just because that way I could check those alert trap chests on the way up through Lower Babel. And with the combination of the Thunderclaw and Yang's power ability, should be able to one-shot them, so you don't have to deal with any of their summons. Very easy fight, and you can get some really nice loot out of the trap chests.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite strategies if you've got that access to the Thunderclaw. And you can use it with Edge, too, because Edge can equip the claws as well. Either one of those characters with a Thunderclaw just makes that looting route just so much better. One of the more underrated loots in the game, I think, is that tower.
Yeah, and there's a lot of benefit to doing keyless tower beyond just the loot and the key item you get. You also get to scout one of the bosses in the hook route, and since the hook is available, could get a little peek at a blue robe there if all goes well. But I think it's about time for us to stop talking, isn't it?
Yeah, once this fight here with the Dark Elf is done, I think he's going to attack you, and he does, and then it's going to be just about time for DJ Spoony B's Rockin' Tunes. And now we're hearing a nice MIDI rendition of the Secret of Mana Town theme.
Yeah, this sounds really nice on the harp.
Oh, very great. I mean, it's a great tune with a great rendition of it here. And a free boss for keddril, so going to be able to get through this without pushing a button should you choose.
Yeah, we were talking about the concerns of this spot and how high the magic defense is, and relying on somebody like Palom to be your main source of damage in this fight can be problematic. But yeah, don't need to worry about that when the fight's going to end itself.
And DemonRHK now heading to Dwarf Castle to try to complete that objective. Oh, and I missed what sprite it was, but we're going to see the boss very shortly anyways.
To wait with bated breath just a little longer. Oh, it's a blue robe.
Ooh. Normally I'm like, please be water hag when I'm playing, but our runners are like, I hope it's the Gauntlet.
It's the water hag. Yeah, it was only one of them, so we
That's true. That's true.
But we wanted to keep the drama going.
And there's Anna thinking that Edward's still in the party.
Ooh, that is not progression, but that is a huge pickup for keddril. And immediately going to slap that on Cecil.
Yeah, that's a huge weapon. That's one of the best in the game. And if you end up if we find that adamant or any Excalibur or Crystal Sword in a chest somewhere, then you can just pass along the defense sword to Kane. He can use it too. So
yeah, that is
very nice.
That is a very nice hand-me-down for the Dragoon there. Quake Kid is online for DemonRHK. We're talking about how good the experience is here. So Palom is in a very, very good spot here.
That's going to help out with a lot of the rest of the underworld. And we have the Magus Sisters in the second spot here. Shouldn't be much trouble with that Quake now.
Yeah, talk about a perfect showcase for the Quake spell. One Quake with a Stardust Rod is probably going to take them all out. And keddril's doing some looting of Evelyn Castle here. A little play.
Probably looking for the trap chest, trying to see if he can get something really spicy out of one of those.
Well, Lunar Staff is not bad at all since he didn't do... Evelyn Cave didn't get that Silent Staff. Lunar Staff is the next best option.
And another Hourglass 2 in there too, so just getting those Hourglasses out of chests is going to make certain fights a lot easier.
Yeah, certain fights in this very castle a lot easier, to be honest.
Yeah, this Staleman Force Skulls is a lot easier with an Hourglass.
Absolutely.
DemonRHK threw those Magus Sisters, and we're going to have a hand steal a crystal, and then we'll get a key item check.
Just gotta stare at this hand. Can someone do something about the hand? We're just gonna watch the hand. The hand is okay. Okay. All right. The hand is gone.
A couple of questions in chat. Papita69, can you use summons if Rydia isn't in your party? No, you have to use them as an item from the item menu, and then Rydia learns the summons. You can't just use them in battle and have them summon. You could use a Grimoire item, though, and it'll summon a random summon. And also Beowulf, I heard it's Kane's best sword, but he has some stronger spears, but the spears are less accurate. That's basically true. Like the spears that are stronger, I believe, are just the Dragoon and White Spear. But in general, because of the accuracy and the way the damage is calculated, oftentimes if you have slightly less power but a better accuracy, you're just going to end up doing more damage.
Yeah, any given attack in this game is actually multiple attacks rolled into one. You can kind of imagine like multiple attacks in Dungeons and Dragons if that helps. But that's why you might be like, well, I never see my characters miss. So obviously accuracy is important. Well, it's actually factoring into some of those individual rolls might be missing, so your damage might be higher. Big thing though was the pan was in Dwarf Castle, so that is going to be a number of checks here for DemonRHK.
Yeah, I don't believe DemonRHK did the Sheila 1 check. Did he? Did either of our runners do that? I thought
Uh,
Keddril did.
Keddril did the Gauntlet, or the Fabul defense, but I don't know that anyone's done Sheila 1 yet.
Well, yeah, then this could be just a lot of checks all rolled up into one then.
Oh, speak of the Dragoon Lance, there it is. Not a bad pickup, even if we already have better weaponry. Just from the fact of that it has that racial modifier against dragon-type enemies, of which there are a good number that you can be fighting. Throwing that Dragoon Spear on Kane is a phenomenal way to do things such as grinding some of the eggs you can get, or some of the bosses that have that dragon typing.
And also the gold dragon grind on the moon if you wanted to do that as well. Or the King Ryu, whichever name of the boss you prefer.
Yeah, usually it's something you want to wait till you have the weak spell to do, but if you've got a Dragoon Lance and a decently powerful Cane, you can get away with that very easily.
Petitas is the 3 extra attack significant? Not usually. The raw number, unless it's a big difference, isn't going to do much. What you're really looking at is the multipliers, which are going to be determined mostly through your strength stat. And then accuracy is the other big thing that you want to do, because you want as many of those multipliers to hit as possible. And that's why, even though the White Spear has a higher attack, the fact that the defense sword has 15 better accuracy generally makes it a better weapon. Of course, if you can hit Holy Weakness, then the White Sword's going to be much better, or White Spear is going to be that much better.
Yeah, it's why it's never a bad idea to have a whole high-level weapons on hand, just so you can sort of switch and swap them as necessary.
The only thing is, like, those high-level weapons you can also sell for a lot of money to buy other things, and they clog up your inventory. I mean, there's just a lot of little optimization things within this game, which is why it's so interesting and challenging to see people making these decisions. Like, do I sell that White Spear now, or do I wait until I can use it on Mylon Z? You know, those are the sort of things that you have to think about.
Yeah, absolutely, and those kind of decisions can really, the good from the great runners. Knowing what to keep, what to get rid of, what to use in any given situation can really be the hallmark of a premier free enterprise runner.
Hi, Groundflyer, music required. Come on. Unfortunately, we've had a music check. It is not required. It is a very nice sword and the defense sword, but it is unfortunately not required.
And DemonRHK is gearing characters up. It looks like he's going to make a try at, potentially make a try at some of these Fame March bosses. Might be a little too early to be taking these on, but if any of them are on the easier side, he might be able to scoot away with some significant progress here.
It's at least going to be knowledge as to what he's up against, and it is Octomam in the Ashura spot, and Rubicante or the Elements in the King spot.
Yeah, I want to say that's Elements in the King spot because it's animated. That tends to indicate that it's the Elements as opposed to Rubicante usually just stands still. And yeah, any of those fights are incredibly nasty here. Don't blame DemonRHK one bit for exiting out of here.
That Thunderclaw will be useful against Octomam, and if either of our runners, the Ice Claw will definitely be useful against either Rubicante or the Rubicante part of the Elements fight. As well as if we decided to pick up that Blizzard Spear.
Yeah, that Octomam fight, not normally a fight you think about being particularly frightening. In that Asura spot, it is downright terrifying. Octomam is known for having is known for having a speed bonus because of its arms. It gets slower the more arms you knock out. And with it being in the Asura spot, which is absurdly fast, it's going to do a lot of physical damage. Yeah, there's just nothing good about that fight right now.
We've seen Artie Bow from Sheila 1 and the Darkness Crystal from Sheila 2. Sheila likes those crystals. She likes shiny objects. That I'm learning from Free Enterprise.
Yes, she does. And that is going to present some very interesting DemonRHK now, because that opens up both the moon and the underworld. So what do you do now? Do you maybe try to go pick up that Tella and see if you can sneak a D Machine grind in? Do you just sort of keep plugging away here at underground checks? What if you're in this situation? What do you do?
Well, the thing that I noticed immediately is that DemonRHK is at 9 key items. So I think what I'd like to do is maybe, if I feel up to it, maybe do the Octomam check, or more likely where he's going right now, lower tower. Maybe use that Thunderclaw. Yeah, he's equipping it right now to do the trap chest in here, and then hopefully get a key item at the top. Because if I can get to that 10th key item, and then I might be ready to do a D Machine grind or check the shop on the moon for sirens, grind up, be ready to do whatever I want to do after that. Ralphian, do I gamble and check the Maga Sister spot? I wouldn't do that at this point. I've got plenty of other places that I can go, which may lead to the Earth Crystal. Since the Tower of Zot is a required fight, I probably don't want to do anything. And if the alternate gauntlet happens to be there, I'd rather just go ahead and do that while I'm completing the Tower of Zot anyways.
Yeah, I really like that both of our runners are making the tower. It looks like DemonRHK is looking for keddril. It just us. We'll see if keddril, if Demon gets anything good out of these chests here.
Yeah, whether or not these chests pay him off might be the difference, because we see keddril just rushing up to the top, whereas DemonRHK is making the play to check these trap chests. So if we get something really spicy like a crystal sword out of this, then that could really give DemonRHK a huge damage thing. And it looks like this is the thing about Yang needs some help. Even with that Thunderclaw, he still can't one-shot the alert.
Yeah, that'd be a situation, since the alert isn't going to do anything, where I would use Yang's power ability, where he charges up for double strength. That way you're almost assuredly one-hitting it here. We got Pain Man on top of the tower.
I think this might be scarier than it looks, because the stats at the top of this tower aren't that good, and if I recall correctly, the Dark Wave is based on its strength.
Yeah, the big moment of truth here from the first Dark Wave will tell the tale here. Yang has a good amount of HP. Yeah, okay, looks like we're perfectly fine. I do like the speed with which keddril threw out that cure just for good measure. And yeah, DemonRHK finding a siren inside one of the chests. If there's no sirens for sale, he can make some really great use of that later in the seed.
Yeah, that
especially
could
since
be
he's approaching 10 key items.
Right. Once you get to that 10 key items, just one of the gold dragon grinds can get you, if you life glitch it, I believe 180,000 experience. So then we've seen recently people timing it so that they can do double life glitches on there, and that's just another 60,000 experience on top of that. So that could be huge. We see the lightsaber also found in one of the trap chests. That's another great weapon option for Cecil, which means that that defense sword can be used with Kane. Although DemonRHK doesn't have that defense sword, so I guess I'm just speaking.
Yeah, anybody that made all those checks would be all set on their two main frontliners. Just a ribbon from the tower, so that's no progression. Decent gearing here, but unless there is something behind that tower key, it doesn't look like tower's doing much for our runners here. We did at least get a peek at the Rubicante spot, which is a lunar boss. Not our Gauntlet, but that Gauntlet could still be hiding in the King Queen Evelyn spot, of course.
Yeah, they also got a peek at that lunar sparkle when they picked up Yang in Evelyn Cave. We'll also see if the runners decide to make the moon check at this point, or if they think they might have a shot at beating the Octomam or Rubicant elements in the Fey March as well. I think the moon might be a little bit more of something that they might be able to handle, especially if they decide to do something like the excuse me, something like the hairdryer's chest, which is in the lunar path. It's a good spot for some experience if they still have some of those hourglass twos in their inventory.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a huge fan of checking that hairdryer. Just a decent amount of experience and get some good loot out of there. Really prime for life glitching. With the amount of hourglasses we found, that's worth throwing one out there just to make it easy. So yeah, that's definitely a play that I like to see.
The D machine grind is definitely still on the table at this point. That does involve wading through everything through the package cutscene, though. That's going to be, I think it's going to be tough for our runners to swallow. But we'll see if either of them decide to make that play and do the grind at this point.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's just like you said. I'm hanging on that precipice of 9 key items. I would be so tempted to wait until I got a 10th before I made that D machine grind. But again, that's one of those things where, being less waffly and being more decisive about there and deciding, I'm just going to go, I'm just going to do this, get it over with, and power through that seed might just be the momentum one of these runners needs to really take a lead here.
And at 10 key items for DemonRHK, I would imagine doing one of those gold dragon fights is going to put you in prime position to do lunar bosses after that, and you can get just a bunch of experience from them after that. For keddril, on the other hand, it might be, if he was at that 10 key items, it might be better to do that, pick up that Tela and do that D machine grind. So depending on what you've got in your inventory might steer you into one direction of how you want to handle your experience for the rest of this run as well. And then again, there might be sirens for sale in the Hummingway abode, which would just make grinding easy anyways.
Yeah, keddril's raising the big whale, so it might be our first peek at the moon here, and some of our burning questions will be answered. And yes, he is moonbound.
Mr. Bus Driver, we might have a vanilla Fu. I imagine Fusia would still be somebody the characters would want to keep, depending on how they feel and what equipment they have. Ditching Yang or either one of the twins, I think, is an option. Probably more likely to be Porum than Palom, unless they just want to have two characters who can cast Berserk, in which case they might just ditch Porums or Palom. So.
Ooh, hourglasses for sale on the moon. That's pretty huge. That makes that gold dragon grind even more appealing. But yeah, if I see a vanilla Fu on the lunar altar, that's just screaming D machine grind to me. I pick that up. I go do whatever bosses I need to get Fu weak, and we go to the giant.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of bosses. We might be close to having a full power Fu at this time, anyways.
Yeah, and even if they're just some leftovers, we still have the Waterfall Cave and Mist Cave were not actually completed, so you can boost Fu up that way. But that's all hypothetical. The actual answer is its edge. So
yeah,
your guess, Sid.
I think that edge is probably going to be ditched here, but we'll see.
Yeah, this early, we haven't seen any fantastic Hanzo steel for edge, but yep, they're getting rid of Young and putting edge in. Can't blame that play one bit.
I mean, I'm always a fan of kicking Yang to the curb, so that fits in with me. But as we see, there's a ninja sword, and that's a very good equipment for edge. It's not the best. I mean, the legendary swords are, of course, the best, but this will make do.
Yeah, it's definitely good. And we also have that spoon too. So now Edge can throw that spoon, either saving it for Zeromus or taking care of like a nasty CPU spot or something like that, where you just want some burst damage. So that's also an option.
That's a good point, and that is a legit reason to take Edge. Even if you're just using it in the Zeromus fight, that's going to almost always be quad 9s. And so that's just a huge chunk of the hit points of any boss, be it Zeromus or anybody else.
Yeah, most certainly. Fabled Cave Bahamut check. Is there value tonight? Certainly isn't any in the chests, it would seem. That's Leviathan. How strong is keddril feeling right now?
I think it really depends. If he's got a big enough stack of If he's got a big enough stack of Star Veils, I think it's a doable fight. There's no physical damage. It's just the percent based on the big wave attack and then ice twos. So if you can reflect the ice twos, that's going to be the main thing. And then all you have to do is keep everybody up from the big waves, berserk up your fighters, and you might be able to get through it. We'll see here.
I completely agree. Throwing out a Silk Web is also a really strong play in a fight like this, since Leviathan has to transition between two forms. That's just going to mean you're going to get double the benefit out of those slows that the Silk Web puts out and make it a much more manageable fight.
I think DemonRHK looking for that 10th key item going down into KF Magnus is going to be somewhat disappointed that it's not a key item, but at least he's going to get a defense sword out of this.
And those Ice 2s actually not hurting very badly at all. Not a lot of magic power at this spot, apparently. He could heal through this pretty easily.
Yeah, with that being the case, it looks like he's not even bothering to use those Star Veils as aggressively as he could have. This the advantage of not using Star Veils is you open up Quorum to being able to use her magic to heal instead of just relying on consumables.
Yeah, you get to save those Star Veils for a rainy day. Quorum gets to actually do something in the fight, and yeah, so this might take a little while because his damage is a little bit on the low side for when you're actually going to the moon, but this is definitely doable, and if this ends up being something key, could be a huge break for keddril.
Yeah, a relief to find a boss that doesn't have a physical attack in this, because the Bahamut Spot's physical attack is insane. As are most bosses who don't have a physical attack, their vanilla spot has a very strong physical attack. That's just one of the quirks of this game.
It's a really good rule of thumb to sort of remember. If you can remember what the boss does in vanilla spot, if they're known for their physical attacks, expect them to have high magic attack there, and vice versa. Even if you don't memorize the exact numbers for the bosses, that's a really good way to sort of gauge what you're in for in any given spot. And how about an encore of Secret of Mana? We interrupt this beautiful music to bring you Rat Tail. That was big.
Yeah, that's huge. The 10th key item for keddril, and that's a required item for this seed. Yeah, that's pretty huge. And the boss of the Bahamut Spot isn't often the first boss check on the moon. This could be very huge for keddril.
Yeah, so not only is keddril rushing to go turn that Rat Tail in, that's 10 key items. That opens up the D-Machine grind as a possibility. Yeah, this is just blown wide open for keddril. What a check there. That's huge.
We'll see if this double pays off. Like, he's really hoping that this is the Earth Crystal behind the Rat Tail, because that just would skyrocket him in this seed.
Bated breath as we get this check in the Adamant Grotto. Well, Baron Key. It's another side quest, which could give another key item, potentially 2 key items.
Yeah, with that Odin spot in the basement, also a potential key item there. So 2 key item checks here. So the question for Keddril is, does he prioritize doing a grind now that he's at the 10 key item? Does he go back to the moon? But it looks like he's heading to Baron right now, wants to cash in that key. And this is something that, especially when we had like big races, if you make a gamble and you find a rabbit hole, you always want to follow that, because if that gamble is what gave me any sort of lead or might lead possibly to a lead, you got to see it through. So it might be a little different in the one-on-one setting, but that's still a pretty good philosophy to follow, that if you find a rabbit hole item, especially if you feel like it's a bit of a gamble. And I think a lot of runners go to the lunar subterranean before Cave Bahamut, so this could legitimately be seen as a gamble. And so he wants to go ahead and just follow through on that. If this leads to either the Alt Gauntlet or the Earth Crystal, this is still going to be huge for Keddril.
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got in competitive gaming is whenever you're ahead, get more ahead. There's, don't fall back on, I think I've got a lead, so I can sort of ease back now. No, strike while the iron's hot. If you think you've done something your opponent hasn't done and it's led to a good thing, keep following it through to its end. If it leads to more, you're going to get yourself more of a lead. You're going to get yourself more breathing room. And yeah, exactly like you said. So I think this is absolutely the right play here by Keddril to just chase this Baron Key to the ends of the earth.
And we're reminded that boss that they saw at the beginning of the game was Queen Ashura in the Baigan spot.
Yeah, not a difficult fight for Keddril by any stretch of the imagination here. Once you've been to the moon and able to start doing lunar bosses, not much on Earth will give you much pause. Asura can be an annoying fight, but yeah, it doesn't even look like is gonna even bother to set up Reflect on Asura. Just going to set Berserk up and go to town.
And also has that Mute Dagger that he just quickly equipped onto Edge. That'll do quad times damage. Ashura considered a mage type enemy. And Ashura goes down without too much difficulty there.
Charging right into the throne room, not even bothering. And looks like the Kaipo guards have usurped the throne tonight. Wow, Demarine actually knew where that phrase was from. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, well, I didn't, so. But
I used to have aspirations to be good at things that weren't turn-based.
On real time's very scary for me. But DemonRHK is looking like he is at least starting down the same route as Keddril did, going into Cave Bahamut first, and we'll see if once he sees Leviathan, if he tries to make it or if he's scared by the big serpent.
Yeah, how crazy is this that both of our runners looking for value in Cave Bahamut? Usually something that not a lot of people are rushing to get to, and are we keeping Porum? Are we taking Rosa? What's Oh, you could see how hard a decision this is.
Keddril acting like me, just keeping the the cursor on the character. Do I do it?
Yeah, I don't blame him for making this play. With your characters at level 30, Rosa has the potential to be slingshot here. If he wants to go make a play on D Machine or something like that, some kind of grind here, be very easy to get Rosa up to speed and maybe even slingshot her past to get all of her spells. Plus, she's going to be a lot easier to nurse in the Zeromus fight, since she'll have that higher HP pool. And RHK sees Leviathan and is out.
Does not want to face Leviathan at this level. And if you don't know that those Ice 2s are as weak as they ended up being, which again, if you haven't seen Leviathan in that spot before, you might not be aware of, then this totally makes sense. Because if he thinks those ice twos are going to one shot his characters, then he's like, I'm probably not going to be able to get through all of this fight because there is a lot of HP there as well. So I can totally understand it, as we know, because we just saw it over on keddril's screen, that it's actually pretty easy to keep up the healing in that fight. Probably would be able to handle it if he tried it, but he doesn't want to risk it, because if he puts in a significant amount of time only to wipe to it, because it could be a slog of a fight, you can understand his reasoning. It's just not going to pay off because we know that that rat tail is there.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things where some really esoteric game knowledge can really give you an advantage if you happen to know that that's got really bad magic attack, and the only thing Leviathan's going to do is magic attack and HP based attack. You know, you'd be more willing to take that spot on. But yeah, this is a huge blow for DemonRHK, and keddril is now in a serious advantage.
Yeah, the thing that could save either one of, or could be a chink in the armor for either of our runners, is that Earth Crystal is still out there. It could be behind something here on the moon, and it could be down at the bottom of the Fame Arch still, which is something that our runners haven't checked. It could be that Odin spot, which keddril did not go and check at this point either. So there's still a lot of things. Yeah, that's a big advantage that keddril has, but I would say by no means is DemonRHK out of it at this point.
Oh, right. Yeah, I want to make that absolutely clear. This keddril may have the advantage here by having made that check, but there is still a lot that this seed has left for us. So by no means is this over. Keddril's got to know he's in some sort of an advantage here just because he made that kind of out of the way check there.
Oh, sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Another thing that could be huge is keddril's not going back to the moon. Is heading to check those Fame Arch bosses. So now if that Earth Crystal or that Alt Gauntlet is in one of these lunar subterranean spots, this is an opportunity for DemonRHK to catch up.
Yeah, especially if DemonRHK routes it in such a way that he finishes the moon, goes back to Cape Bahamut, and clears that out too. If any of these other objectives are on the moon, then all of a sudden the momentum switches back to DemonRHK. It really is still anybody's race.
The only thing that I think could be a problem from DHRK, from what you just mentioned there, Smapty, is if the Earth Crystal is in the lunar subterrane, I'm guessing DemonRHK skips Bahamut.
That's definitely a possibility. I think it's going to come down to how ahead he feels. That's when you really want to sort of feel out, what's the seed looking like? How do I think my opponent is doing? Let's say DemonRHK finishes at the moon in the next 20 minutes or so, and he's sitting at 130, 135. Yeah, I might be tempted to skip Bahamut too, because I might be feeling very behind at that point. So you're absolutely right. I do like these really nice Cecil cover strats keddril's got set up here on Palom and Rosa, keeping Cecil in the back row to auto guard the frail mages there. Really, really heads up play.
Yeah, for a boss that is only going to use physical attacks like Octoman, this is a really nice strategy that we see a lot of our runners use. And having those illusions in the inventory makes it even safer.
Yeah, certainly. Then you can keep your other fighters who are not in that status up. All Octomam does is physical attacks. So you don't have to worry about getting gibbed by any magic shenanigans. And if you were feeling especially vulnerable, you can even throw illusions on Cecil. And he can actually protect through the blink status there, which is definitely a positive. The only way you cannot cover with Cecil is if he is currently parrying or defending, or he has the Berserk status on him. Any other status, and he is still good to go.
Yeah, that's definitely a mistake I've made, is berserking Cecil when I'm trying to do a cover strat.
So Whoopsie have I. Or I just want to blow through his turn, and I hit parry, and oh god, he's not doing it. Oh no. Cecil, please protect him. Oh no, he's got AirPods in.
Meanwhile, DemonRHK had found Dr. Luge in the vanilla Pale Dim spot, not known as one of the more difficult bosses. It has a lot of HP for this spot, but it's covered under a bunch of different characters. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Looks like Palom took a little bit of a nap, but should be able to get through this part without too much problem. And we'll get some levels on Edge through that as well.
Yeah, Paladin does not have the highest experienced reward here in the Moon. That definitely goes to the dragons down in the dual ribbon spot, but a decent enough that'll get some levels and better prepare him for some of the deeper fights as well. As Possum Morpheus is pointing out in chat, this will give Rosa a nice slingshot over on keddril's screen, as she is currently at a very low level. Yeah, 17 levels isn't a nice casual 17.
And then we'll see the reward for both of these bosses. The pass is a nice little find. The White Lance is not what you want to see at this point of the game.
Yeah, at this point you've already gone through the Cave Magnus check. You've already got that really nice defense sword for Kain. White Lance is great, don't get me wrong, but yeah, this is the point where we've got enough loot. We really want to see some progression.
And DemonRHK is still looking for that 10th key item because he didn't get the rat tail that we saw keddril pick up.
Yeah, so you'd really like to get those 10 key items before you hit that D-Lunar spot, just because of the massive amount of experience there. Getting that doubled can really set you up nicely to the point where you might not even have to grind. So I wouldn't be surprised if he puts that spot off until he's got another key item under his belt.
So it is Rubicante himself in the King of the Sea, Leviathan's Vadilla spot. So we're gonna have him go through that. Looks like keddril went through his inventory, I think probably checking for a Blizzard Lance. Did not find it, so going with probably that's the defense sword on him right now. It might be Dragoon Lance, I don't know. It might be the defense sword on Cecil. I'm just, saying words over here.
That's all right. One thing is, of course, Conte has a massive cold that you can exploit while his cape is open, but this spot is so fast it can be very difficult to actually time it for an Ice 2 spell to hit while the cape is open. We'll see if he tries to sneak in some damage with Palom that way, but it can be very difficult to do in these incredibly high agility locations.
Oh, he's going for an Ice 3, which has the longest charge time of any of the Ice spells. If this hits while it's open, it's huge. It can probably get through most of the HP. Unfortunately, Palom hit with the glare.
Oof, yeah.
That's actually that might end up benefiting him.
Yeah, that's a blessing in disguise, let's be honest. That Ice 3 was not getting off before the cape closed.
And DemonRHK going to the vanilla Wyvern spot next, doing the top-down route of the Lunar Subterranean. Finds Antlion there. This is actually a very nasty spot for Antlion, as very high physical attack in this spot. Because, of course, Wyvern does not use physical attack.
Yeah, this might be another spot where I might try to utilize Cecil cover strats. Even still, that's just so much damage.
Yeah.
Even Backroad Cecil might not even be enough to handle that.
And the Ice 3 hits while the robe is closed, and as Rubicant says, as he boasts to the party that his Cloak of Flame can even absorb ice, and we just saw that in effect.
Yeah. A lot of people that are new to Final Fantasy IV might be a little surprised to see how little those tier 3 elemental spells, or the 3 or the fire 3s, the ice 3s, or the Thundagas, Blizzagas, as it were, aren't used very often. That's because there is actually casting time in Final Fantasy IV. We wouldn't see it again in the series until much later. But yeah, those higher tier spells cost a significant amount of time to actually cast. And a lot of time it's just not worth waiting for the cast time for the amount of damage that they deal. It's often better to get multiple casts in of one of the lower tier magic spells. Usually, if you needed to hit an elemental weakness, the 2 is usually the what you're targeting, or usually using something like Quake or Virus that is a substantially lower cast time.
And as we see keddril switch and going to be using Quake from here on out, the charge time on Quake, despite the fact that it deals so much damage, is so low that it's just, that's why it's, the fact that Palom learns that at such a lower level than Rydia is a big part of why he's considered, as far as raw black magic, the superior mage, because he's got access to this really powerful spell with a really low charge time at such a low level.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things, since Palom was never intended to be taken to this high of a level, that I guess a little bit less care was taken to make sure that his spell list was actually balanced alongside the other black mage in Rydia. So yeah, much quicker access to those higher tier spells, and if you don't have a really good summon that you found to keep Rydia viable, Palom's going to eclipse her very quickly.
Changing up the strategy a little bit for keddril, now charging up that Ice 3 while the cloak is still closed, hoping it'll release when it's open, because if you can hit that Ice 3 when it's open, that's a huge chunk of damage that you're going to be doing to Rubicon in one.
Oh, he did get the timing. That should be quad 9s. Yeah, easily. Not enough to finish a Rubicon at this spot. I believe there are over 30,000 HP in this spot, so he's got to do a couple of those.
But that's going to be putting him in a pretty good spot now. A lot of confidence, too, that the strategy that he's employing is getting in the right direction. The wild card are those glares that he does before he closes the cloak, because that's going to basically one-shot anybody. And Rubicon's been liking targeting Palom with that glare.
Yeah, from what I understand, the targeting of glare is random, but maybe there's some actual element to it, because he just does not seem to want to stop looking at Palom. Glare is just such a nasty ability. The damage coefficient built into the ability itself is so high that even in low magic spots, it's almost guaranteed to one-shot a character unless you have an enormous amount of HP.
keddril also making good use of those, whatever they're called, illusions, because the punching that Rubicon can do from this Leviathan spot is very strong. And he punches a couple times when he's got his robe closed. I think it alternates between 1 and 2 punches different times that he closes the robe.
Yeah, right you are. Just nothing fun about this spot in general. Speaking of not fun, we've got a CPU in the Plague spot. That's a lot of HP to get through.
The CPU known for being not necessarily a dangerous fight, but almost always an annoying fight.
Yeah, I would almost be tempted to throw my spoon here if I'm DemonRHK.
That's a perfectly defensible option there. That spoon, although it does do a really good chunk of damage on Zeramis you can Berserk Edge and he can do a lot of damage that way. Against the CPU, you don't generally want to Berserk characters because you don't want to take out that attacker and face the wrath of Globe 199.
Yeah, there are some fun tricks you can do with CPU if you're feeling especially like flexing on the game. You could try to reflect floats onto CPU so you can get Quake through on the CPU but not the attacker. You can try to reflect blinks onto the node so that your berserkers won't actually hit it. Yeah, just going with standard strats here. All of that extra stuff is not necessarily as reliable as just good old-fashioned damage like this. And keddril is through the Rubicante fight.
Yeah, Rubicante admitted that he lost. I lost now.
Yeah, I still don't know what triggers his dialogue or not.
He's the only boss who just says it like that. That's great. Oh. No payoff.
I mean, if you wanted to Berserk Rosa, the heroine robe. I mean, we do have the Artemis bow, and we do have the heroine robe. So you can make a fantastic fighter out of Rosa now.
Yeah, Warrior Princess Rosa definitely online.
Yes, but I mean, that's just kind of looking at sweet lemons at this point. That really is a lot of lost time for not much gain.
Let's see if Keddril goes to the Odin spot, and it looks like that is the next item on the docket. So if this doesn't yield anything, then that could put DemonRHK into a pretty good spot. So long as he still goes and does that Ashura at Bahamut fight.
Yeah, because that would mean
Leviathan at Bahamut, sorry.
Right, because that would mean that we are looking at a moonbound Earth Crystal, or at least the path to the Earth Crystal is on the moon. So I believe this is our last terrestrial check, isn't it?
That we've got available to us now. We still haven't seen the Tower Key or the Luca Key or the Earth Crystal. I mean, the Earth Crystal isn't going to key itself. But...
if it did, we'd have to have a long talk with...
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
Hi, Wyvern. How's it going?
Ooh, that... he got mega nuked.
Let's go back to the drawing board on this one.
Oh, yeah. Boss Morpheus reminding us the boss of the package check we haven't seen.
Always in the back of your mind. Keddril noping out, doesn't even want to try any sort of agility manipulation. Saying, you know what, if it's behind there, you can keep it, Wyvern. I'm going to the moon.
Remember, there are also 2 boss checks in the Giant of Babil, and the Alt Gauntlet could be behind there as well.
Yeah, and that's just what's so crazy about these boss checks and why they can be such outstanding objectives that don't get finished till very late, is there's just so many boss checks in this game. There's so many places they could be, and yeah, that Giant is a really sneaky one, and there's some massive HP totals there that can be a real pain to get through if that is indeed the boss that you're hunting.
J to the Vice, is Package Gauntlet the dream? I think either the Ogopogo Gauntlet or a Giant Gauntlet. That's kind of what I'd see. I'd rather it be a really tough gauntlet for them to try to face. But would be very trolly for it to be in the package spot. I'll give you that.
I'm feeling Gauntlet. I'd really like to see that. Let's have a real drag out bare knuckle Gauntlet fight with about a 5 billion HP.
You would get a ton of experience for that fight, though.
Yeah, especially if you had the presence of mind to life glitch everything.
I don't know how many opportunities you have in that spot for life glitching.
Yeah, true. What? Oh, God, I've never actually run into the Gauntlet there. So the Alt Gauntlet, what kind of stuff do you run into?
You're talking the Mazamune altar?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. We're thinking of 2 different spots. I was thinking of the element spot.
Oh,
the
element spot. Oh, there's probably opportunities for that. I may have misheard you. But the Ogo spot, I think, is going to be lots of like red D's and evil masks and behemoths, and so not a lot of opportunities to life glitch. In the Giant, I think you'd have some, because it would probably be like those horsemen. Beamers, sort of things that you can try to life glitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, to answer a question in chat, we have not seen purchasable sirens. So any of the easy grinds are off the table. We do have the Darkness Crystal available for a D-Machine grind, but the only option for weak is Tella, who is behind the package and nobody's wanted to pick up. That's a Luca key that could be hiding both the Gauntlet and the Earth Crystal.
Yeah, we'll see. One option that we don't see too often, but some runners do make when they find a rabbit hole item like this, is to make a safety save and then exit out, go ahead and do a quick check, see if they've got what the goods are, and then if it's not anything, you could just reset back to the bottom of the lunar subterranean and proceed from there.
And with 10 key items, DemonRHK is heading up 2 floors. I think he might be popping a siren here to hit a gold Ryu.
Yeah, if you remember, he found the 1 siren in a chest. This is something that Keddril does not have access to. So now that he's got that 10 key items, he's going to try to get... I think he's going to try to get at least 180,000 experience out of this fight.
Yeah, I really, really like this play. This is going to give him a really nice, good 3, 4, 5 levels on all of his characters. He can then go into the D Lunar spot, do the boss there, get the double experience from that spot, and he might be in a position where he can just kind of skip grinding, because that's going to be a lot of experience right there.
And that might give him the confidence. Remember that he needs that Leviathan, and think that he's in a better spot to do that. Hopefully that's the case so that he doesn't just miss it.
Yeah, I hope he's in the mindset of, well, I've done this much on the moon, I need to clear everything. So yeah, let's go clear out Bahamut spot. Oh, hey, cool, we've got this rat tail. I'm back on track here. Not going to be able to get the life glitch off here on the King Ryu, so only going to get what is it, the 12,000 experience.
But, well, 120,000.
Or excuse me, 120,000. What's an order to? But
yeah, that's unfortunate on the timing if you don't have it quite down. Miss out on that. And that is pretty huge. But 120,000 is still, looks like 5-6 levels on most of his characters. So that is still a huge chunk of experience right there.
Yeah, right, you are.
And it doesn't look like he's upset enough to reset and try it again about missing that life glitch. Going to take the 120k and go for it. And it looks like keddril has defeated the Mylon Z, gets a pink tail and the tower key. So we do have another potential key item check open. And that pink tail, unfortunately in this flag set, does not give you the adamant armor, just a top tier piece of, or a top tier item. I imagine at this point it probably isn't worth it to go back there to check, but it depends on how the characters feel. Like they might be hoping to find like a Mazamune or something behind there to like up his edge or something like that.
Yeah, at this point we've seen enough good loot that I wouldn't be terribly tempted by turning in the pink tail. But yeah, that option is really there if you're feeling confident enough in your gear. Go grab a nice dip into the high tier item pool there.
And now we see them swapping spots, and DemonRHK now in that Mylon Z fight, feeling a little bit better about his position, but this Fiend is still punching pretty hard. Hopefully it'll be enough. Looks like that back row, I'm not sure exactly what he's got on that Palom, not taking a lot of damage there.
Yeah, you love to see that.
I wonder if the frontline fighters might have either like black belts or karate robes instead of like a samurai or dragoon armor, so that they're sacrificing some of their defense for a little bit more strength in their attacks.
Yeah, I want to say I saw DemonRHK buying some in a shop somewhere, so wouldn't surprise me if that's how they're set up right now.
And it looks like we've got the float strategy working over there on keddril's side. So you reflect a float on one of your characters, and you hope that it hits the attacker and not the CPU. keddril got it, and now you've got access to using Quake, which bypasses the CPU's wall. And since the attacker is now floating, it'll miss the attacker, so you avoid the Globe 199s as well. It's a very nice strategy. It is somewhat luck-based, but if you get it, it's great.
Yeah, it only has a 50% chance of working. You can't target you can't target float. Float targets the entire party, so you reflect it off one of your characters because you only want one float to go. You don't want to float both of them. You're not hitting anyone with Quake, and you need it to hit that bit instead of the CPU itself. So works for keddril, gets to get the Quakes out, and he'll have a little bit faster of a CPU fight as a result.
Yeah, Mirkuric Wanderer asks, why does the float strategy require reflect? Float is actually a spell that you can't cast on the enemies. You've got to cast it on your own party. So that's why you've got to reflect it. It is reflectable. It's just another one of the kind of weird quirks about Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, and I believe you can't even single target float in battle. I think it's automatically target your whole party, if I'm not mistaken. Which is strange because you can single target at battle, but hey, wouldn't be the weirdest thing about the way Final Fantasy IV is programmed.
DemonRHK got the cool 200k for defeating the boss Mylon Z, and now is going to check the Mazamune altar and going to see if we get the nastiest alt gauntlet that there is. They are still looking for that, of course.
This will be a lot of fun if it's the case.
It is!
Oh my!
Wow.
Are you ready for a mini boss rush?
This is terrible and awesome at the same time. Oh, that evil mask coming out. One thing just in general that I love about the Gauntlet and why it's my favorite of the new flags in version 4 of Free Enterprise, we're so used to the different strategies and scripts that the bosses have. This just throws a wrench into all of that. How long has it been since most of the Free Enterprise players have actually fought an evil mask?
Goodness gracious. And yeah, DemonRHK just demonstrating that, finding out the hard way that evil mask has auto. So yeah, if it's been a while since you played the vanilla game, these are the boss encounters that when you get into random encounters with them, it plays the boss music. These are rough.
And now Keddril's in that battle as well. Yeah, this is gonna be this is the gauntlet. This is the gauntlet.
This is the gauntlet of the gauntlet. So while they're dealing with this, let's sort of look at the implications of this.
Sure.
That means that we've got the tower key and we've got the Luca key from the moon. One of them has to lead to the Earth Crystal, which is the last piece of this puzzle.
Unless this fight itself gives you the Earth Crystal.
Very good point. Yeah, that is still on the table. This fight could also be the Earth Crystal as well. They're very, very neck and neck at this point. Keddril has the edge in that he's actually done Cave Bahamut. So that's one less check that he's going to have to do. So I think right now, any advantage DemonRHK might have been from doing the clearing the moon first might be gone at this point. And I think Keddril definitely has the distinct advantage now.
The way that Keddril, or that what DemonRHK is going to need is for this not to be the Earth Crystal here, because Keddril still has a couple of checks. He went bottom up instead of top down, so the Wyvern spot and the Plagues or a Pale Dim spot that DemonRHK has already completed, Keddril hasn't checked yet. So those are still some things that if this is not the Earth Crystal, Keddril might want to clear before going back to the Blue Planet and checking the Luca key and Tower key. Meanwhile, DemonRHK still needs to go back and complete that Leviathan fight at some point.
Yeah, right you are. So depending on how long it takes, that takes them both to make those finishes, Keddril doesn't have terribly difficult boss fights in front of him in those remaining spots. Depending on how long ultimately this takes between the two of them, it really might come down to what they decide to check once they get back to the Blue Planet. If one of them checks Tower, one of them checks Luca, then that ultimately might be the decision that decides this race.
Question, Mercuric Wanderer. I don't think Behemoth attacks in the SSES version, right? Not generally regularly. I think he does very slowly. He'll do one that by himself, but he does counterattack all fights with a fight, and it's a strong fight.
Yeah, he's very, very nasty. Incredibly resilient, but hard to get through.
But he's very slow with non-countered fights.
Yep. Yes, you did, Night Dude. Welcome to the Gauntlet to end all Gauntlet.
Yep, and this is required. It is one of the objectives, is to complete this fight, or this series of fights.
And we are only on the second fight of this Gauntlet, ladies and gentlemen.
Papita69, I wouldn't say I called it. I definitely hoped for it.
You wished this malevolence into being. You can thank Demarine for rolling this one, actually, Dr. Cossack.
Ooh, Behemoth down, but only Edge and Quake Kid alive after that for DemonRHK. And we'll see what the next fight is here. Another evil mask.
It does not let up.
There aren't a lot of monsters on this floor, which I believe is where it takes from. So Evil Mass Behemoths and I believe Red D's are about the only thing that it can pull from. There might be a combination of multiple of them on the same encounter. I'm not sure exactly what the encounter structure is at this point.
Yeah, that extra XP that Keddril has gotten at this point is starting to show off. He's caught up to DemonRHK, who, when this gauntlet started, was almost a full fight ahead of him. Now they're almost neck and neck. Keddril might overtake DemonRHK in this single fight.
DemonRHK had the help of that one siren that he was able to cash in after the 10 key items, but the extra battles that Keddril has done throughout this scene have made his experience point or experience level advantage really shine through here.
Yeah, absolutely. Did that evil mask just hit itself with white? I think it might have mistimed. Its agility might have been messed up because of the time when its wall was up.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much these are affected by the stats of the boss. I really don't.
It's my favorite is always seeing the Maga sisters nuke or not nuke, but smash themselves with magic because their agility is all wonky.
Keddril now into the Red D fight after that second Evil Mask, so looks like he has overtaken DemonRHK, but this Red D is no joke. That heat ray doing tons of damage.
Yeah, you have got to keep your party topped off against the Red D, doing massive damage with that Dragoon Spear, which is great, but the party's looking a little beat up here, and if it gets another Red D and gets a heat wave off before he can get some, or heat ray off before he gets healing in, this could be a big problem. Oh my gosh, it's Double Dragon.
We got the Double Dragon fight here. One of the most difficult encounters in the game is double Red Ds. I kind of rate Red D, Blue D a little bit scarier, but this one is no doubt a nasty fight.
Oh goodness, he's got to just clench up, waiting for that Rosa to get a turn. Come on, Cecil hanging in there.
Got the Cure 4 off.
Oh. Okay, all right, here we go.
Get the quad 9s with a jump on the Dragoon Lance.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Especially for this particular fight is going to be split between the two of them. That should make quick work. Throwing out a dart too. Don't blame him. This is a scary fight, and you don't want to fight it for any bit longer than you have to.
Yeah, this might be this gauntlet, all things considered, because you're not used to it, might end up being more difficult in the runner's mind than even the Zeramis fight, and that's why you just want to go all out and make sure that what you're doing is going to win.
And answer question in chat, Conquer's boss bet on the gauntlet. No, the red Ds themselves actually have the bullet set. You can't use coffins or status items or use the life glitch on them.
That Cure 4 being huge. DemonRHK, it's really tough. He's really close on this one. Hopefully this Cure can get off and he could be in a better spot, as it looks like Keddril may be through here.
I think that's the fourth fight. Or was it the fifth?
I think that was the fifth.
That was the fifth. Yeah, okay. It was Mask, Behemoth, Mask, 1 Dragon, 2 Dragon. And Masamune is a reward for that.
And also got a Dragoon Spear drop from the Red Dragon, too.
Yeah. That is, Edge needs to start teaching Kane how to dual wield.
A DemonRHK now in the Double Dragon fight. Not a lot of resources left for his team.
Yeah, this is looking a little dire.
But Porum did just learn Cure 4. Unfortunately, she takes a wipe. This may be it for DemonRHK, and that's going to be a real unfortunate wipe in the last fight of the gauntlet.
Oh goodness, that is heartbreaking. That is such an enormous mental hurdle to have to overcome if you're DemonRHK. Jumping right back into it without even pausing there on the load screen, and is gonna back out. Might be looking to do a grind here.
This is actually a really, I think this is a really heads-up play for DemonRHK. I don't like that he's going to be missing that Leviathan spot, but if you're taking it from his point of view, not knowing what else is out there, what he knows is that that fight is required, and so if he gets all of his other objectives completed while gaining experience along the way, he doesn't have the pass. So he figures, I could go there, get my crystal for completing my last objective right there, and then just walk to Zeramis from there, and it's not that far. So I could totally understand, after what happened during that fight, to want to get them more levels and do that. Now, we of course know that the fact that he missed out on that Leviathan is going to be huge, but at least he's going and checking that tower key first. The problem is, I bet he ends up checking the two Feymarch bosses, which, if he would have been able to avoid, could have been a way for him to make up time. Unfortunately, I think that's going to end up costing him.
Yeah, it's this from DemonRHK's perspective. This makes a lot of sense. I think it's really heads up routing, like you said, pulling that gauntlet off for your last objective. So you just grab the crystal and go. Yeah, it's just with the meta knowledge that we have of where things are and what rabbit holes now exist for him to fall into. Yeah, it's looking a little dire for his chances here in the race overall.
And in the Super Cannon room, we see Valvolus. Not going to be any sort of problems.
And appropriately, it was Kane that took care of her.
Oh my.
Well, that changes things.
I guess I thought DemonRHK was able to best that Atlion, but
no, that's right. He did nope out of that fight. It was doing too much damage. So yeah, that is go mode for keddril.
That's just more unfortunate luck for DemonRHK there.
Yes, that is a vaunted boon if I've ever seen one. We had value. We've got the objective for the Fabul Gauntlet sitting on the Ogopogo pedestal. Earth crystals right there at Wyvern, and now DemonRHK has a bunch of key items in his pocket that are just rabbit holes.
Yeah, every hunt, be it key item hunt, boss hunt, that were objectives in this, were on the moon.
Keddril taking it some time to turn in that pigtail like we were talking about. Is in the area, might as well. And a white robe is nothing to sneer at. That is going to be phenomenal for Rosa going into the Z fight. And a white robe. Perfectly symmetrical rewards here. All things in balance.
And DemonRHK wants to peek that key item in the bottom of the sealed cave.
Yeah, the good news for DemonRHK is there is nothing that could come out of this sealed cave right now that might tempt him to keep it. So this will be a quick check and save scum after he sees that neither the key item or the boss is something that he needs.
Yeah, you might not be able to use exit in the sealed cave, but you can use reset. Dunsal, I'm a noob. What does Haunted Moon mean? That's kind of just a colloquialism that there's nothing on the moon that you need. It's become just some things that the community has liked doing. Well, it looks like DemonRHK is going to be going for the trapdoor grind to try to get some of the levels up. This is one of those things where it's knowing what's available and using what resources you have at your feet. And you remember that the trapdoor grind is a very legitimate grind, especially at 10 key items. So I've got that available to me. This is going to make me stronger, and then I'm going to be able to beat the Gauntlet at the bottom of the Lunar Submarine.
Yeah, I like this. This is very heads up, showing a lot of game knowledge of what's available, what resources at my disposal, what can I do to get what I need to at this point. And it's just been some divergent routing that has really been the difference here between DemonRHK and keddril. So yeah, I think DemonRHK is really making the best play for his situation here. And yeah, I don't fault this trapdoor grind one bit.
Meanwhile, keddril now climbing the Tower of Zot to complete the last objective.
And after that endurance match of a gauntlet on the Ogopogo, neither of these bosses should pose a threat.
Yeah, even though DemonRHK got through 4 of the 5 fights, basically all the experience was for naught with that unfortunate wipe.
Shout out to Baigan and his lovely biceps.
That's your team name, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's my favorite team name.
Thank you. I wish I could take credit for that. That was all RPG. And quickly done in. Here's Rydia. I think it's far too late for her to be attempting pick. It'll be interesting to see if Fu shows up, if keddril decides to take him or leave him.
Well, the other option is you might want to take Rydia for an anchor.
That actually is a very good point.
I don't know. I think I saw a... Oh, we could have double edge. I think I saw a cursed ring in a shop somewhere in this seed. I might be wrong, but I don't know if either of our runners picked them up.
Yeah, if there's a cursed ring available, then definitely. Oh, and it's the Terra-colored Rydia, one of my absolute favorite sprite palettes.
And this dismissing of Palom here, I think shows that for Rydia, shows that he wants Rydia to anchor him for this Zeramis fight. And that might mean that he doesn't have a cursed ring. He doesn't like his agility situation overall. And he's honestly, with the 3 fighters that are going to be berserking in this fight, it totally, for the Zeramis fight, not this Karate Man fight, like missing out on Palom isn't actually missing all that much. I mean, if you had him in there, you could do like a hybrid strategy, which can work, but at these levels with 3 strong fighters, you got good weapons on them. You can just have them berserk and have Rosa heal, and that's basically all you need in order to get through Zeramis at this point.
Yeah, all you really need for Zeramis is a strong fighter and a strong white mage. They can handle the fight on their own. When you've got 3 strong fighters and a strong white mage, then yeah, you're more than set. Yeah, you could, like you said, do the hybrid strats with Palom, but it's absolutely not necessary. This makes it a much safer fight. Maybe even get cheeky with that Heroine Robe and Artemis Bow and go for Quad Zerker with Rosa, but that's probably going a little too far.
Hey, I'd like to see it.
I'd love to see it. We saw. I've seen one point this league, and the happiest I've ever been. There's an Adamant, so that's a free Excalibur for Cecil if he wants to make the just a little footwork.
And I believe that's a 17 out of 17 with that Adamant, huh?
That it is. Which means that all these key item checks that DemonRHK is going to be making are going to lead to Bubkiss, and gosh, that's unfortunate. Not even a consolation prize of an Adamant.
He wants that Excalibur. He's also going to be able to check the shop to see if there's any, maybe elixirs might be something that he'd want, but I guess I don't know what. We saw Cure 3s in shops, we saw Bacchus's in shops, we saw Silk Webs in shops, and those are generally the 3 items that I want for the Zeramis fight. Maybe Star Veils if I'm doing a reflex threat.
Right. Yeah, some equipment from the Coco Shop, like Zeus gauntlets, would be fantastic with this many fighters of the continent. Crystal Ring is tempting. Yeah, gonna pick up a
If you
crystal
got the
ring.
money for it.
Yeah, and a crystal ring and a crystal ring. Very, very good item.
Doesn't need another defense sword because that can just go to Kane. Which it does.
Yep, just passing down the equipment. And getting his crystal rings on his berserkers here. So yeah, not only are those crystal rings going to make them stronger with the agility, but it also has a chance of hitting another attack multiplier. It's harder to get attack multipliers through agility than it is through strength, but that also can increase your attack. That's why the crystal rings are considered such amazing accessories.
Also a very nice magic defense for defense against Zero Misses Big Bangs as well.
Yeah, if you're ever wondering why we don't tend to favor heavy physical defense armor a lot in this game, it's because the end game fight Zeromus does do no physical damage whatsoever. So you're better off equipping things either that have high magic defense or don't give you great defense but give you stats, something like the Karate Gi or the Black Belt. Since you don't have to worry at all about physicals from Zeromus, everything is raw magic.
And now we're getting that check, and unfortunately it's not going to be a key item. Yeah, Excalibur.
But it's it's an Excalibur, and I don't think DemonRHK is going to reset it because of all that grinding that it did. So going to keep the Excalibur, going to fight his way out. Not going to give him progress, but yeah, good weapon for Cecil.
But we're getting to that time, Smithy.
What time would that be?
Well, I'd like to say it's butt time because we got to ask whose butt are we kicking tonight?
Whose butt indeed? If you are new to Free Enterprise, we randomize everything, even who we fight at the end of the game. Nothing changes about the boss fight itself, but community member Scala Kitty has done a phenomenal job of digitizing a lot of sprites from other Final Fantasy games, other RPGs, pop culture
I've been
references.
digitized.
And so I think there are several hundred sprites available that Zeromus can show up as. Always one of the fun things to check out is what he's going to be. And as soon as keddril throws his crystal, we will figure it out.
I believe it is now over 72,000.
I believe
sprites.
that number.
Yeah.
Scala just sits in a workshop all day just making Zeromus sprites. Occasionally, we slip her some something to eat, some gruel.
And here comes the crystal from Rydia.
And Bacchus wine's going to the top of the item list so we can get our wine party started.
Grrg.
Hey, thanks for the sub, Motas, just in time to get your Z flag. And yeah, that's a thing.
Well, we've got Lotus Miss.
We have Lotus Miss. I'm just waiting for the inevitable somebody in chat to understand the reference. Is this Terranigma? I've never played Terranigma, so I'm not sure.
My first guess was Plants vs. Zombies, so...
My first guess was the Wizard of Oz platformer. Don't ask me why.
Oh, I've played that game. You will notice that the script that Lotus Miss has is exactly the same as Zero Misses. We're not that cruel. I mean, that alt Gauntlet was cruel enough, I think. PS Wildfire, Black Lotus for Magic, that I would recognize. This does not look like a Magic Black Lotus.
Yeah, that doesn't look like it's giving anybody mana. We see TCG Jinsen. That's a distinct possibility. Another game I have not played, sadly. And down goes Rydia, but she has served her purpose, setting up Zeromus's relative agility for the rest of the party here. Lotus from Battle Kid. When we raid the other race, our raid message has to be bugging Scala Kitty to identify.
When you've got over 72,000 sprites, then some of them might be a little bit vague, or you just don't know what they are.
Esoteric stuff in the pool, like Lobstermas?
Oh, don't rag on our restreamer.
And there's the crack bang boom. Zeromus is down. Keddril takes the win.
That Berserk strat just working very well throughout that fight. Just waiting on Rosa. Like, if I need to cure, I'm there. Otherwise, the Berserker boys will do it. And they did. GG's to Keddril, finishing at 2 hours, 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Stays alive in this. Moves to 2-2. Unfortunately, that's gonna put DemonRHK out of the after the Swiss rounds. Is not going to be able to advance, but we did get to see some great things from RHK in this run as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this that is going to even up Keddril. It's going to mean he's 1 win away from play-in race contention. So big win here for him.
Okay, we got multiple people now saying it's Lotus from Battle Kid, so we're
Awesome.
good.
Good to know. That mystery is solved. And yeah, DemonRHK is currently engaged with those Feymarch bosses. And meanwhile, I think we're going to go see if we can get a hold of Keddril here and see if he wants to share a few words on his with us on his race. So answer a question in chat from Rydia of Mist. What is this part of the name? Swiss is the refer to the format of the bracket for the tournament that we're running. So we have 2 rounds of this tournament. The Swiss round is the first round, which is a series of one-on-one races with the best records advancing to the actual bracket stage, where it is a elimination match. And I believe we're joined by Keddril. Keddril, GG.
Thank you. It was interesting.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, so let's just jump right to the meat of it. How is that alternate gauntlet at the Ogopogo spot?
Well, like I'd read about people being really trolled by that, and I was like, yeah, I should probably grab one of those seeds and practice it. And then I was like, yeah, it'll never happen. That's never gonna happen. So then when I checked the Ogo spot just before I was gonna head up to Wyvern, and it was an evil mask, I was like, oh man. I didn't even fight these when I did vanilla Final Fantasy. Like, I just ran from everything here. I don't know how to handle this.
I don't think anybody actually sticks around for these fights, even in the vanilla. When it starts playing the boss music for random encounters, I just kind of.
And then when I got heat waved by that single red dragon, and I did like 1,300 damage, I was like, uh oh. So that's when I just tossed the
next fight is 2 of them.
Those red Ds are not playing around.
No. So I ditched the spoon, and then Kane took him out, and then it ended up working out. It was massive experience, so that covered the no sirens.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so how did that sort of affect your routing, knowing you have easy access to a grind there? Were you ever thinking D machine grind, or were you thinking just clear out the moon, get the experience there? What was kind of going through your mind at that point?
Well, I spent the first like 20 minutes running around to every shop there was and followed nothing but disappointment. So then I was gonna fall back on the D machine grind if I found a foo. I guess technically I had Tella behind the package, but I didn't want to do the boss yet, which is, I guess, a little bit of a risk in case the Gauntlet was behind there. But then I just figured when I was level, 36 or something and going to the moon, I had 10 key items, so clearing out the 5 spots there would have been more than enough to get up to the right levels.
Yeah, and it certainly did, especially when you're boosted by like that Mylon Z in the D lunar spot for the cool 200k experience. That must have helped a lot.
Yeah, that was really nice. That one I messed up a little bit because for some reason I thought it was elements, so I put a wall on edge because I was going to reflect fires off, and then I was like, oh, I guess I can't berserk him now, so that's a bummer. If only I kept any of those unicorns that I always dispose of.
Yeah, unicorn strats are a little outside my pay, personally.
Yeah. Agreed. But it was good. It was good. I liked it.
Yeah, so you're hanging on here. You got a 2-2 record going into final round. A win in the final round is going to qualify you for at least the play-in. How are you feeling, and what sort of preparation are you thinking about going into the last week?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, a lot of my races, the 2 that I lost were very, very close. Like only within one was a little bit more because I did a lot of extracurricular activities, but the first one was only off by about 2 minutes or so, or 3 minutes. So I'm feeling pretty good. Like I think I got a good chance of winning the next one, hopefully. If not, then I will spend all my time volunteering.
Yeah, that's I'm in the same boat as you are this weekend. Yeah, another loss would be a lot of volunteering.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your win tonight. Good luck in your race next week, and thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure watching your run.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for putting it on.
GG's again, keddril. And it looks like we're also joined now by DemonRHK. Demon, a couple of unfortunate mishaps in that run, especially I think that wipe down at that alt gauntlet is really probably the most unfortunate thing that happened to you in this race, huh?
Yeah, it happens. It was kind of a tilting wipe. I was struggling through all the fights, and then I saw double red dragon, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I was done. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, you had to. I mean, those fights down there, as we were saying with keddril, are just no joke. Those heat rays hit really hard, and you had to get through a lot of your resources to get as far as you did. I mean, you almost got through it. I think you were at the last fight in there before they actually knocked you out cold. But other than that, you were doing pretty well. So, what did you think about the seed overall?
I thought I was cautiously optimistic. I started off and I looked at all the objectives. I'm like, okay, this isn't too bad. And then it's like, okay, I got a magma key to start, and I got like 2 or 3 free objectives right off the bat. And then I find an early mist dragon, and all this is going well. And I'm like, hey, I'm being carried by the Quake Kid going through here. And then as we get a little bit further and a little bit further, I'm like, where's the Fabul Gauntlet? And then it's at one point I'm down to the moon and everything that's locked behind it, and I'm like, I really hope that it's hiding in like Zot or down in like sealed cave, and absolutely not at Ogopogo, which is my dread as soon as I saw the objective. And of course, for the memes, it's at Ogopogo.
Yeah, as very disheartened you as runners had to be seeing that. Chat was loving it. So you put on a good show for them.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure. I went down there and I'm like, maybe it'll be a vanilla Ogopogo, maybe something weird like Plague, and then I see an evil mask, and I'm like, crap.
Well, one thing I do want to mention, if you go back and watch this VOD, you and keddril actually at roughly the same time, and Keddril just got through it by the skin of his teeth. So you were very, very evenly matched in there. It was just basically flip of a coin that did it. So don't feel bad about that wipe on there. That was just an incredibly nasty fight, and you almost got through it. So really well done on your part.
Yeah, I mean, going back and watching the VOD, it's going to be a couple of things are going to stick out that maybe would have just given me that little extra oomph if I hadn't have spaced out in the middle of my one siren and tried to actually get the extra experience from the life. And then if I had gone back up to the Wyvern spot after I had finally got that 10th key item after that 15 odd minute CPU fight again, and then actually went back up for the experience after I had gotten just shot ahead between the 10th key item, the grind fight XP, and then the Lunar Dragon XP.
Right, and in my mind, you're actually the winner of this race because you actually talked to the Drop Dwarf and Keddril did not.
Oh yeah, I went for all the memes. I actually looked at the harp. I went to the Job Dwarf. I said, why not? I'm already here.
Yeah.
DemonRHK knows how to be restreamed.
Yeah. So, are you at this point now? You're 1-3. Are you still planning on playing for the Pride next week, or are you gonna take next week off of Free Enterprise?
Oh no, I gotta play. I'm
All
1-3.
right.
I'm 1-3, and I haven't won a game. My only win was actually by forfeit. So I actually want to win a race once and just be able to say, hey, at least I won one race that I actually ran.
All right. Well, then, good luck to you in that. And once again, thanks for letting us watch your stream tonight. And GG's on your effort.
Thanks for commentating, restreaming, and tracking, guys, and everything. And everybody have a great night. Thanks a lot again.
You too. Take care.
All right. And with that, we do have another race for Free Enterprise tonight. So we're going to send y'all over to the RPG Limit Break channel for the second race tonight. And before we go, I just want to make sure I give one last shout out. Thanks to DemonRHK for doing the restreaming. Thanks to Bahamut X for doing the tracking, and my partner of tonight, Smapety, for being in the booth with me.
Yeah, always a pleasure to do commentary with you, Rex. Was a pleasure doing it tonight. And when we raid RPG, spam Lotus Miss, everybody.
Yes, Lotus Miss for everybody.
Good night, folks.